Okay, so let's get this party started. All right, so let's try this. If it does it one more time, I'm going to come back on, okay? So, all right, let's explore three very similar but individual concepts and ideas, okay? And I think it's super important that we dive deep into these and we talk about the myths around them, because a lot of people have certain concepts in mind when they hear these words and they think of certain things. And I think the things that we think of tend to actually cause more stress. And unfortunately, because there's been a load of misinterpretation around detachment and ignoring and even faith itself, I think we need to deconstruct these and also turn these like all into tips, right? Now, first and foremost, we know that tips don't manifest, okay? So tips do not manifest. Let me be the first and foremost to say that you are the placebo. You are the believer who believes in yourself to use this belief. And we're going to talk about faith as belief and belief as faith and what that means for you. Because people hear that word is so abstract. And even people and authors in the manifestation community even argue, just believe, just accept. And, you know, Neville even talks and uses the word belief. And the Bible uses the word belief and faith. And what do they even mean? And, you know, so why don't we jump into that? Why don't we jump into faith? Okay. Because again, most people hear faith. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Most people hear faith and their brain automatically goes to like some religion. Okay. Right. Hey, Dominic, welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. And so most people, when they hear the word faith or even belief sometimes, but mostly faith, people automatically think of a spiritual concept, or they automatically think of a religious concept, or they automatically think of a religion, right? And so I think we need to get away from faith being anything religion or religious oriented, okay? Or I would even say spiritual, okay? So as somebody who is an atheist, like I don't believe or adhere to a religion, okay? So I'm not thinking of faith in the generic sense of that word. Okay. I know that there's a tendency, especially in Western cultures, because we're so inundated with a history that has been imposed upon through Christianity predominantly, right? So a lot of people think of America, they think of Christian nation, all of this kind of stuff, right? We think of, let's see, Middle East, we think of, you know, Islam, right? We think of Asian countries, we think of Buddhism, right? And so people really tie the geography usually to a religious ideology, not all the time. But for the most part, we do it on autopilot. And that is not helpful, right? And so, yeah, exactly. You can use faith in currency, right? Like you're saying here, Dominic, which is a great example, right? And again, faith, though, I think we really, really need to remove the stress behind it. Because a lot of people think faith means effort or belief means effort, especially when it comes to manifestation or even Neville's work. When they're trying to deconstruct it, and a lot of the people come into Neville's work, they come in either from other places, they don't come in straight into Neville's work, and they don't come into just straight deep dive into his work, right? And even if you did, here's the main thing about Neville's work, okay? He's writing it as he's experiencing it. He's writing it as he's learning it. Okay, the problem is people prop him up as a guru that has no flaws. And then two, they prop his work up so high that if you disagree with it or if you offer a different perspective on it, then it's like he's Jesus. This is one thing he's very adamant about. Do not do that. Okay, that he himself, Neville, is the ego. You do not prop up the ego. You prop up the God within us all. Okay? Now, the reason why I say that is because I'm going to offer some different perspectives here. I am not countering Neville's work. I love him. He's going to be a lifelong friend of mine, right? But I do want to offer some different perspectives. And actually, what I'm about to offer here is actually from his work. But when I say it's from his work, it's actually from the Bible, okay? And so when we use the word faith, first things first, your brain will shut down every single time that you try to use just faith, right? Or belief. Why? It's too abstract. So neuroscientific research shows that every time you use spiritual jargon like this, not even just spiritual, but like, for example, and I've shared this before, and you can actually fact check me, right? Neuroscience research shows that one of the major reasons why people fail at doing their yearly, like, hey, look at me, I'm sharing like my gym pics on January 1st, right? And they're like weight loss goals and their New Year's resolutions and they're eating less donuts. And why is it that by the end of like February or the beginning of March, everybody's flopped, everybody's failed? Right? So research shows that your brain does not understand abstraction. It just doesn't. And it doesn't want to help you when you try to use abstract terminology. Okay? So when your brain finds something, it wants to fix it and it wants to understand it. But if it doesn't understand it, it ignores it. It doesn't actually honor it. It doesn't value it. Okay? And so when we understand faith, not as a belief, right? And Neville even talks about how faith and belief are very different to him than the typical understanding, even in a Christian setting, for example, right? It is not faith in something outside of you. It is faith in something outside of you. So first and foremost, faith is internal. Faith is not external. Faith is always internal, always. There's never a time where you put your faith in something outside of you, whether it be a practice, a crystal ball, a tarot reading, a rabbit's foot, whatever it is. So again, first and foremost, now that we're defining it, faith is in something, right? That's the first and foremost, right? It is, and that in is you. It's the faith is in the inner man or the inner self or God or love or Jesus or Holy Spirit or whatever it is, right? And so again, the second thing is faith, and if you break this down from the Hebrew or the Greek, you get a very interesting word, okay? And Neville actually talks about this. He doesn't break it down as much as I am, but he does bring this up because he's quoting from the ancient languages. And so this is an area that I'm trained in. I'm trained in Hebrew and Greek and Ugaritic and Phoenician and all these ancient languages. So when you break it down, you get the idea of loyalty. Okay, but here's the thing. That's too abstract again. So we need to go deeper. Okay, your brain is not going to help you if you say, I'm just being loyal. What are you being loyal to? We don't know. You need context. So like for example, if you use the word loyal or truth or faith or beauty or whatever it is, your brain will get confused, right? Like it's like saying the color blue. Yeah, but blue shirt, blue hat, blue sky, blue car, right? No. You've got to give it context. And the same with this idea of loyalty. So let's put this into context, okay? Loyalty, what I want you to do is I want you to think of a king. You can either now, because this is just a metaphor, replace the word or the idea of king that I'm using with your desire, but with your fulfilled desire, or even with consciousness, or with God, or whatever it is, right? But what I want you to do is I want you to replace it with one of those options while I'm talking about this, okay? So, loyalty, if you're going to show your loyalty or fealty, right, to a king or to a leader, you have to prove it. You have to show it. You have to demonstrate it. Okay, but guess what? What are you using? What do people usually do? If you think of medieval kings and the time of medieval kings and queens, what are you doing? You're prostrating before them. You are giving them gifts. You are giving them your talents. You're using your talents to prove that you are what? Loyal to them, right? Well, we all have talents, and this is another area that Neville talks about. Our talents are what, though? Our thoughts, our emotions, and our beliefs. TEB. Right? Thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Okay? And perceptions, right? And because basically what Neville says is what? Your states will, if persisted in it, will harden into fact. That harden into fact is better understood as perception. Okay? That's really what he's saying. And so when you're trying to fully grasp this, what you have to fully really recognize is that we're being loyal to the new version, to the new desire. Okay? And that means, by the way, you're not being loyal to the old desire, to the old story, okay? And we're going to talk about that in detachment as well, right? And so it is not being loyal. So when you're being loyal to something, you're being unloyal to something else, Okay, so if your gifts, which are part of who you are, which by the way, what is another thing that people give to their king? They give their time. So if you're giving your time, which is another way of saying that is attention, right? Your mental attention is time. Like think about that. When you're sitting there daydreaming, what are you doing? You're giving your time mentally to what you're thinking about, right? And so again, the same thing with faith. Faith is loyalty, right, to an unseen reality. But the unseen is here. Okay? You can see that here. All right? And yeah, you can think of time as energy. I don't believe in time. I really don't. I mean, as somebody who's studied quantum physics for like 5 years, I definitely don't. And studying some of the greats in this field, they don't either. Right? Time is simply a process. It's not a second on your watch, right? And it's better understood as a process, right? And so again, you're giving what? You're giving your time. Okay. And so again, the same thing. What are you giving your time to? What are you giving your gifts to? What are you giving your talents to? And by the way, when I use these things, I'm talking about them literally. Why? Because people always come here first. They always come here first and they think, oh, well, to manifest, it's all just got to be here. We forget that this is a product of this. So for us to separate that and that dualistic understanding is really not helpful. Right. So even though as somebody who's, taught philosophy for years in universities and stuff, I understand that there's a duality understanding about from Descartes. I think therefore I am. That's really faulty. So I'm a monistic dualist, right? What I mean is everything comes from here and how we understand what's out there. Okay. So what we're dealing with, though, is when you're trying to fully grasp what you're giving yourself loyalty to, because that's what faith means, you have to understand that it's your time, your energy, and your beliefs, and your perceptions that harden into fact, which becomes a perceptive lens, a way to see the world, right? And so again, you are then investing in that loyalty to your king. Now remember, if you've just jumped on, when I'm saying your king, fill the word king in with your achieved desire. Whatever it is that you want in life, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Or even consciousness itself, what you're aware of, okay? And so what you're doing is you're giving yourself over to those things. And I mean that literally. And I'm talking about here's a tip right now. Write down ways in which you can give your time on this, in this realm, not just in this one, right? How you can give your time over to, this, let's say you want to manifest a new business. Okay. How are you giving your time, your beliefs, your energy, and your perceptions to being now a business owner? Not sitting up here waiting for years or for minutes or for months, right? I'm saying have both going on at the same time. So I'm very different than a lot of manifesting coaches who say sit up here for whatever and however long. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I actually don't disagree with that. There are times where you need to do that. But for the most part, I actually see that there's research that shows that you can actually create faster manifestations by creating an intimate, cohesive connection between your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, right? And how do you do that? Well, you create now in this world from the perspective of already having it. So if you're starting a business, no, you're not. You're a business owner now. You already have a business. And so again, what about if you want to manifest a car? Well, then guess what? You're not somebody who's manifesting a car. You're a car owner now. Well, what would you be doing? How would you be living your life, right? And so you start making decisions. You start giving your time over to that. You start giving your attention to that. You start giving your energy and your emotions and your beliefs, right, to those things. That's what faith is. Faith isn't, I got to crap myself until I'm almost blue in the face, to muster up enough faith or muster up enough belief. That's why I don't like those words. They're too religious. For me, loyalty is a better understanding of what it means to believe and what it means to believe in the reality. Yes, you start here, but you end out here, right? Our sights against great share, mate. Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, so again, that is step one. Okay, so that is step one, is to understand that faith is not some abstract idea that's out there. It's something that you're loyal to with your time, your energy, your beliefs, right? And again, yes, you're doing that in here as well. How are you using your time in here? How are you using your emotions in here? How are you using your beliefs in here? That's very important. In fact, it's the most important, because that's where all reality comes from anyways, right? At least all of our perceptions of reality sit there, and we create out of those perceptions. Okay, right? So again, even if you take Jesus all the way down to its Phoenician root, it means reality. So Jesus is your imagination. Jesus is your reality, right? And so whatever you put into, okay, this reality, this mental world, will find a way to outpicture, right? So again, that's faith. So that's part one. So I said we're gonna talk about detaching and ignoring. Okay, because there's a lot of and unfortunately a lot of mental health issues coming out of the manifestation community, whether you follow Neville, Esther Hicks, or whatever it is, right? Is there's a lot of unhealthy views of what detachment or ignoring is. Okay, so let's talk about detachment. And yes, they are related, but they actually are different. Okay, so detaching. Okay, one of the things that is not helpful that I am seeing in most communities, and I'm not talking about just Neville communities, right, is that you think that detachment means I have to let go of the new story. 199% not, right? That is not what's being said. People say, oh, well, yeah, I manifested after I let go of not having that desire. Guess what? You think you did that. Guess what you actually did? You had a strong enough desire to see the new desire manifested that it overcame, and this is actually what it says in the Bible, the word overcome, right? That overcome means to overpower, right? That it overpowered the old story, that the old story became tired and gave up fighting, right? And that is actually really understanding, right? That detachment is not, like, let's think about this, because I think this is the craziest idea to come out of manifestation communities. Detach from your wanted desire. Why? Like, think about, because we always manifest from our what? From assuming we already have it. And what are we using? We're using our emotions sometimes to get there, right? Not all the time, but we use it sometimes. So that's like saying, don't be happy. Detach from happiness. Really? And I'm not saying toxic. I'm not for toxic, right? I'm not for toxic positivity. What I'm saying is you don't have to energetically be like, I'm so giving up now, I'm detaching, right? That's not what is being said. That's at all. And I find people actually, ironically, by the way, when they're trying to do this, end up with more anxiety, more depression. I mean, I've even seen people actually go into mental health hospitals because they didn't understand attachment, right? And this is because people have ridiculously unhelpful, militant, closed-minded understandings of what this is. And for me, I'm committed to mental health. That's my field, right? So of course, I seem very passionate about it because detachment means detaching from the old story. Detaching from your want of it is very different from detaching from the joy of having it. Do you hear it? So there is a difference, right? And so detaching is detaching from the old story. But some people say, well, how do you detach? Check this out. This is actually a technique directly from the Bible, my other video, and it's a very, very cool little technique. And again, it's not mine, it's from the mystics. But it's actually overcoming evil with good, okay? So you have to understand that word overcome either means to overpower or submit. So there's actually two things that are going on, okay? So overcoming evil means disorder. There's no ethical category in the Hebrew mind at all when you read evil or good in the Bible whatsoever, never, right? But evil means disorder and good means order. But what does that mean in connection to you manifesting or you achieving your desire? Whatever that is, okay? So think about this in terms of desire, okay? Getting it, I keep saying achieve of evil and good and overcoming evil with good and turning this into a technique for detachment, right? I so as well, okay, is ultimately the difference here is that you want to fully understand that detaching is not necessarily always letting go in the typical understanding of it, right? What it is detachment, if you're using this new technique, overcoming evil with good, is that you're overcoming evil, which is your disorder, which is your, like, what, lack of faith, doubt, fear, you can't pay the bill this month, anything that we call outside circumstances, okay? Anything that you call outside circumstances, right, is what you're detaching from. And we're going to go into that one when I talk about ignoring in about 5 minutes, okay? What that actually means, because there's a lot of mental health issues coming out of there. Like, what does it mean to ignore my circumstances? So, detachment, though, is also, by the way, it is detaching from conditions that don't serve you. But it is never detaching. Here's the one thing you never want to detach from, okay? You never want to detach from the fact that you are the operant power. You never want to detach from the fact that you are the one who's in control of this, that you are the one that probably had a hand in even bringing this into your world. And that's not a guilt thing. That's not anything to be having to do with regret or anything. Because once you give that up, then, okay, the housing market is going to matter whether you get your house or not, or you living with your parents and them being cold, like totally cold and disaffected and anything along those lines. Right? So the one thing you don't detach from is realizing that you have all of the power, right? And that you always will have all of the power, okay? But detachment, again, remember, is not detaching from the new story. It's detaching from the old story, but how do you do it? Well, let's go back to this technique and then we'll close out this section and we'll talk about ignoring, okay? Is overcoming evil with good, overcoming order with disorder. Okay, but again, back to what that means in our language for manifestation. It would be like saying, if you want, let's say, health, then it'd be, okay, overcoming healthlessness with health, overcoming unpaid bills with paid bills, overcoming loneliness with falling in love, overcoming, right, anger with love, acceptance, whatever it is, right? Overcoming rejection with confidence, right? So again, that's what it's really, really meaning. So a lot of people say, well, no, you have to get rid of all of your limiting beliefs. Now, as somebody who's trained in psychology, I believe you should be doing both at the same time, meaning actively healing on your journey, however that means for you, whether you go to therapy, you go do meditation in the morning, you go to pray at your church, whatever it is that you do, actively be involved in your own journey for your whole life. But that doesn't mean that you can't manifest. That doesn't mean that you can't manifest from a place of having mixed beliefs either, right? But what it does mean is, let me say it another way, and Neville says it this way as well. Your dominant thought pattern, your dominant emotional pattern, your dominant belief pattern, right, which he calls a state, has to be more powerful than the ones that are filled with doubts, the ones that are filled with lack of confidence, the ones that are filled with the economy, whatever it is. That's how you detach as well. You detach by becoming. Because think about this, and this is very similar to what the ignoring technique is as well. You ignore by becoming, right? You detach by becoming. So what do I mean? Well, if you're becoming healthy, the more that you become healthy and you focus on becoming more and more and more and more and more healthy, guess what's going to happen? It's not going to matter. You're going to detach. So like this idea that we have to muster up detachment, we have to force it or push it, or like, nope, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about the pink elephant. I'm not thinking about the pink. Yes, you are, right? So again, the idea here is that we're not forcing. And that's what Neville says when he says, don't do effort. What he's saying is there is going to take some work in this. It is mental work, right? But mental work is not the same as effort. Effort is him saying, like, I'm not thinking of lack, right? That's what he's saying, which is what most people define detachment or ignoring as. And it's neither of those, right? And so people are like, yay, I totally manifested something and I was able to push out the doubt. No, you overcome the doubt with a stronger dominant thought, emotion, and belief. Right? That's how you do it. And you sit and you rest it and you repeat it and you wash it and like rinse and repeat. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry. So again, let's go to ignoring. Now, I actually like this one. So it's not very far from detachment, but it is a little bit different. Okay. And I think I found a great metaphor, I guess a musical metaphor or a word that I borrowed from Beyonce. Yes, thank you, Beyonce. I know she's not dead, by the way. I'm just worshiping her. And so I want to talk to you about ignoring, okay? Because ignoring for many people is hard. And what I want to do is I want to talk to you about what it is and what you're not ignoring, okay? So most people hear ignoring and they hear like another thing that he says, as in Neville, which is like ignore the 3D or ignore your or circumstances don't matter. Okay? Let me give you a way better definition, and I'm going to go into another live on circumstances don't matter as well. But really what he's saying here, and I think this is a much better way to understand this. Anything you see or anything that's happening in any way, shape, or form in your life or in your world or in your experience right now is not permanent. So he is not saying, oh, my mom just told me I was a piece of shit. Oh, that, just say it doesn't matter. And I do hear people saying that. And people need to get a life, because obviously in the moment when your mom just said that to you and it's 5 minutes and it's fresh, that's going to feel like it matters. Okay? So there's nothing wrong with that mattering in the moment. There's nothing wrong with you in like dealing with the emotions and the emotional baggage of that. Okay, thank you for that, Soso. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. He is not saying don't do that. In fact, there's several parts of his lectures where he's like, if you're angry, get angry. If you're annoyed, get annoyed. Right? So do it. Feel the emotion. Why? Because, and another part of his lecture, he says, if you don't, it's going to internalize, and that is the heart source for disease. Right? So what do you think Neville's saying? He's not saying don't feel emotions. In fact, to me, especially as a psychologist, he's saying the opposite. He's saying feel the emotions to the point of release, of healing, of restoration, of redemption, right? So again, heal. That's really what he's saying. But what he's saying when he says ignore the circumstances, he's not saying they're not real. What he's saying is, and he even says it actually, is he isn't saying that the circumstances that you are experiencing aren't real. He's saying they originated in here. He's saying they originated from your what? Thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. By the way, that's also how you build a self-concept. And I'm going to do a workshop in my group coaching this week on how to build a strong self-concept. $50. If you want to join my Discord group, jump on. Right, so anyhow, what I want to do though is I want to talk a little bit more about this. And this is going to turn into a technique for you. All right, so again, go ahead, feel the frustration. Go ahead, feel the anger, feel the disillusionment. But don't let that be your core self, okay? Do not rely on that, all right? Oh, awesome, so okay. Yeah, if you can message me, then, or email me, or if you want, you can add your email here, but I don't want it to be public if that's not what you're comfortable with. But would love to have you. And so, again, ignoring does not mean ignoring as in don't react to. Yes, you want to get to the point where you don't react to that. But I'm also talking to people who are like, I'm still learning how not to do that. Okay? And so you do, and you can train yourself to the point where things like that don't matter anymore. Right? But those people that are completely not supportive of you going through this and going through any circumstances are really misinterpreting what Neville is saying, especially when he fundamentally, and I mean, one of his whole friggin' lectures is called the Golden Rule. And you have to imagine what it would be like to be that person and say, how would they want to be treated? It's not, hey, circumstances don't matter. That's not, really? Is that what you would want somebody to tell you in that circumstance? Most likely not, right? And so, what I want to do is I want to break this down, okay? And I know I keep saying that, it's just I'm getting back to my thoughts. So, okay, ignoring is what I actually like is if you take it to the root, right? It means to not know, okay? So again, it means, so in this context though, it means to unknow, right? And so it means to take the knowledge that you have, and this is very important, this is very cool, and I'm going to break this down as well in another video. So what does it mean to unknow? It's now you're taking the knowledge that you once had of this event that you didn't want to have, and you're now taking it to this place over here, and you're focusing all your knowledge on knowing this, which is the new the end desire, the achieved desire, the desire that you want, whether it be a new house, a new SP, a new car, whatever it is. Right now, you know you don't have it. Well, guess what you're going to do? To ignore it is to unknow it. So to unknow it is to take your attention away, and that's really what ignoring means. What are you putting your attention on? That's really a better way to understand when he says circumstances don't matter or ignore the 3D, right? What he's really saying is, where are you putting your attention? Okay? Because when you put your attention on, oh, I have my car right here. It's sitting in the driveway, and I have the keys in my hand. Why? Because I have it here. The memory's here, right? And so, again, that is what ignoring is. But then also, and this is very key right here, Beyonce has a really, really, really good song. I know I'm using Beyonce, but still, and I actually like her music. So, is irreplaceable, okay? Ignoring is the question that you answer, right? So, ignoring is the question that you answer of whether you believe something is irreplaceable or not, okay? Because if it's not, guess where your attention is going to be on? Knowing only what you know right now. That's all that you're going to be doing if you're trying to force ignore something, okay? But if you take Beyonce's word about irreplaceable, right, and this idea of it being irreplaceable, then guess what you want to do? Ignoring is realizing what? It's actually the opposite. It is replaceable. That means you realize, right, that this circumstance that you're in is replaceable. If you don't, then you're not going to ignore it. If you think that this is the only possibility that exists in the universe of all universes, right, then you have gotten to the point where you think this moment, this event, this relationship, what was said, what you felt, whatever it was, right, unpaid bills, that this is not replaceable, then that means you're not going to ignore it. But if you start to realize and recognize and accept and celebrate the fact that this is replaceable, things can be changed. That's what circumstances don't matter mean, and how it relates to ignoring your 3D and ignoring your circumstances, right? Is that you realize that one, ignoring is about where you're putting your attention, right? That's really what it means. It's not about, I'm not seeing you. No, go ahead and see it. It's fine. Just start getting to the point where you saturate your mind with 3 to 5 different emotions or feelings of the wish fulfilled until they are crowded out. And then while you're doing that, put your attention over here on your achieved desire. Okay? And then during that process, realize and accept that this is replaceable. This can be replaced with this. And that's what you're doing in here. You're creating scenes and a world and a mental city that replaces your experience and overlays it on this one. That's how you ignore, right? Are you with me? So again, I know we went through a lot today. There's actually 3 separate videos that are on each concept, and I'm going to do more breakdowns on each of these concepts with more examples as well, and probably with more practical tips of, hey, what if you're in this situation? What if you're in that situation, right? And again, I'm super stoked, by the way, that really, really quickly, is I'm actually opening up a mastermind, and what that means is you get basically a free onboarding call with me. You get a private supportive group, and you get support from me on a regular basis. And it's basically a closed exclusive group. And this is a very exclusive group. We're actually kind of interviewing people, not really interviewing, but we are going through a process because there's only 12 spots. And it is we're basically calling it the Creators Mastermind, right? And it is an exclusive group. And so get in touch with me to find out package pricing and all that kind of good stuff. But we also have obviously the general, right? The general Discord group, but this is going to be an exclusive group for only 12 people. And so you're going to get one-to-one time with me as well. So let me know if you're interested in that, either here, email me on my bio here. Share this video with at least one person today. Share more thoughts below. Keep that conversation going. Support each other. I love what I do. I'm really good at what I do, but I also believe that the same is true of you, right? I believe that you're awesome, and I believe that you're capable of using all of this information to get you whatever you want, right? So would love to connect. Okay, so I will definitely connect with you after this talk, And again, try to get in touch with me in some way, because what happens is when I go to upload this, it takes about an hour or so, and that means I can't, for some reason, I can't access the comments. So if there's a way that you can get a hold of me, check my bio for the email, then we can get in conversation soon. So thank you all for being so supportive. Thank you for being here, and much love to you, and I will talk to you soon.